Here he is.
Hey, Patrick. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Dennis.
Let's just see. All right, I see everybody. There we
You
go.
see everyone, right?
Yes.
So you got, I don't think you know anyone there because you graduated what? In
2017 is when I graduated.
2017.
I'm getting old.
You're like the senior guys now. It's pretty scary stuff. All right. Actually, we never went. I wasn't there when you were there. Actually, we met in New York in 2019. But and to our you were there at our last Alum night.
I was, yeah, I was.
Yeah, that was before COVID. So we had another one, believe it or not, 2 or 3 weeks ago. We started it again. But now you're not in New York. You're not at JP Morgan anymore. You're in the fields somewhere.
It doesn't matter. Hey, it doesn't matter. I'm always down for a good chat with students if I'm available.
All right. So before we have you down for 2 mock interviews with the students, but before we get there, I wanted you now that you really have some background and experience, and more importantly, some reflection. What would you recommend that these guys do right now as they're starting the program? In terms of eventually getting a job, obviously, besides the curriculum, and to get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first I wanted to say thank you all for being flexible. Like I feel like once you're a few years into the job, your schedule just becomes crazier and crazier, and things pop up, especially when the CAO calls you or they send you a message. You have to drop everything else. But it's been, and with market volatility, it's not helping with what's going on with markets, Fed policy, and so on. But that's stuff that doesn't matter as much for you, I would say. Just curious, are you guys mostly like first year, second year? Are you graduating next year, or you're still in your first year?
It's about half and half right now. Half of them are graduating. I mean, less than half. I think Wenxi, Charles, Ramus, Shatali, all these guys and girls and I'm forgetting someone. Jersey also is graduating, and Kiyu, and everyone else is new.
Okay. Well, and your question, Patrick, was advice, right?
So yeah, what should you have done? What should they do right now? To prepare, because 2 years or 1 year comes pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe let me tell you a story. I think that's a good way for advice, because always when somebody asks for advice, there's no perfect advice, right? Everybody's circumstances are different. Your skill set, your strengths, weaknesses are different. But I'm gonna try and go back to when I was in your shoes and how I was going about finding a job. It's very nerve-wracking, hard, complicated, right? The one thing people will tell you, and I wasn't great at it, was just looking for, building a network. I did some of it, but I wasn't as good as I should have been. Now thinking back at that time. And the approach I took was really just, all right, I know that what my strengths are. I'm gonna look for entry-level analyst jobs that I know are gonna be fit for me, and I'm gonna be fit for them. So if you're doing like financial engineering, derivatives, risk management, risk modeling, quantitative analysis, that was one area that I thought I wanted to go, and that's where the opportunities I was looking at and the application that I was sending out were all related to those areas. And as you're starting out, especially if you don't have any experience, it's really hard, right? You really have to shine to get the job. And I feel like now it's not much easier, but slightly easier than back in the day. I know people talk about the shortage of labor market, and so on. But if you're starting out, it's still hard. It's still challenging, right? So anyhow, the approach I took was, there was some networking, but networking didn't get me the job as I expected. It was kind of throwing applications to different places that I thought was a good fit. And Now, to be clear, I wasn't one of those people that just applied to 300 different roles with a 0.01% chance. I tried to be very targeted, maybe just 10, 15, the ones that I know that I have a shot at. There's no point in kind of throwing as many darts, at least in my mind. You have to be somewhat targeted in what you're trying to do. So I did that, probably applied to 15, 20, and then two of them worked out. I got a call back from two of them. Now the first one, it was very quick. I think I had only 2 days or something like that to prepare, and it went terrible. Like, it was really, really bad. And kind of like, you don't have any experience, you don't know how to interview, maybe not enough preparation and so on. So it wasn't as good as I expected. So, but those were some lessons learned for me specifically. So, and just to give you some context, I started looking way in advance. So don't wait until the last minute. You probably already know that, but don't wait for, if you're graduating in May, don't wait for April, don't wait even for March. I started looking, and I thought I started late. I started in end of December, beginning of January. So really beginning, like the first week of January. That's the job that I got, was actually like the beginning of January, and I didn't get any interviews until March. So
That's kind
especially
of late, actually. I mean, because right now I've got students looking right now.
exactly, yeah, you should.
Yeah.
So don't, basically, maybe the first advice, the first takeaway from this conversation is don't wait. Don't do what I did. Don't wait until the last minute. It might still work out. It worked out for me, but it's better to kind of start looking early and now. So I did that, but probably, yeah, one lesson, one advice: don't wait. Do it as soon as possible. Be targeted into the job that you're looking at. But the bigger point that I want to make is that second interview that I got was towards I think I got a call back mid-February, so about 5 to 6 weeks after applying. And they were like, "Hey, do you want to come down? You want to speak with?" Well, first I had to speak with the hiring manager. You don't go to speak with the team right away. And I did that conversation. I prepared a little bit. It was only half an hour, so you're not going to be tested on like your technical skills. I don't think, maybe, but I think you should focus more on just showing that you can hold a conversation. The degree and your technical abilities, I think most people, they're not going to assume, but you'll be tested. But that's going to be at a later point, I think. At least that was my experience. So that first conversation with the hiring manager went well. And then a few weeks or a week later, they were like, "Hey, do you want to come down to speak with the whole team?" And at that point, I was thinking, all right, this is the one opportunity that I have right now. So I really need to make it count. So I only had, and I remember this vividly, I only had six days to prepare. And I dropped everything else that was on my plate. Like, that was probably the only time where I did not care about school at all. It was all about that job, getting the job, because at the end of the day, that's what you need to focus on. Like, a project can wait, whether you get 95 or 90 on exam, it does not matter at that point. Focus on just getting that job. And in my preparation, maybe it's the same for everybody, maybe it's different for people. In my preparation, I focused on getting to know the firm, the team. I went even crazy, like stalked everybody on LinkedIn, what their previous jobs are, what they do, making sure that I prepared the questions for them. Because now, speaking from experience, like right now, when I interview people these days, and when somebody shows an interest and that they've done their homework and work, it really, you won't believe it, but not many people do that. And when somebody does it, they become first, like in the pack. They make an impression, and it's almost counterintuitive, because you've done so much work in projects like technical, like you're running optimization simulations, like your projects take so much time. But that extra step that you can take to research the team and the firm and their backgrounds, and try to tailor your questions to what those guys are doing, it's going to take you far. At least that has been my experience. So don't hesitate to take that extra step. and making sure that you make an impression and you land that job. So
Great.
that's really the biggest thing for me. Like speaking from experience, like make it count. Like any opportunity that you have, unless you have 10 different ones, and you can be very picky.
Yeah.
And you can dismiss certain ones, but if you have a few, right, make sure every single one of them count, because it matters.
So maybe in 1 or 2 minutes, can you explain? And then I want to get to the mark session with these two guys. What about so what do you do now? What's your job?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I'm the head risk manager for the quantitative equities here at Vanguard. I know they're a large asset manager, so they're mostly associated with indexing, but they do have a large presence in the active space, both in fixed income and quantitative equities. Like right now, it's a $50 billion franchise. If you were to compare it to any hedge fund, it's a large asset base, and have several investment mandates, from your typical alpha fund that is trying to outperform a benchmark. There's the factor funds and there's a multi-asset portfolio as well that focuses on like different long short type of strategies